The hour of 12:30 having
Recording
arrived.
in progress.
The hour of 12:30 having arrived, the clerk will call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Triguero.
Present.
Councilmember Bruner.
Present.
Councilmember Newsom.
Present.
Councilmember Golder is currently absent. Councilmember O'Hara.
Present.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Keeley.
Present.
Councilmember Golder.
Present.
There we go. Good. A full complement having been established and a quorum having been established. Madam Clerk, let me go a little bit out of order. We'll do this a couple of times this morning. It is my understanding that we have 3 items that are continued, and would you announce those now, and then we will announce them again when we come back from closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. Items 14. Pardon me here. The Item 14, the public safety impact fee item. Item 16, 313 Swift Street. And item 17, the fair rate return to landlords ordinance have all been continued to the March 11th meeting.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Excuse me. We will be going into closed session in a few minutes. However, this will be the opportunity for anyone to comment on our closed session items. For those of you looking at the agenda, that would be items 1, 2, and 3 on our closed session agenda. I do not see anyone here in chambers wishing to comment. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone online who wishes to comment?
No one online.
Seeing and hearing none, how we will proceed at this time is we will adjourn into closed session. We will return to open session no earlier than 1:30 p.m. this afternoon. We could come back later than that, but we will not be back earlier than that. We stand adjourned into closed session.
What's happening across the street? There's no parking.
I'm not sure.
It's like, that's.
The hour of 1:30 having arrived and the city council having completed its business in closed session, the clerk will call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Triguero.
Present.
Councilmember Bruner.
Present.
Councilmember Newsom.
Present.
Councilmember Golder.
Present.
Councilmember O'Hara.
Here.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Keeley.
Present. A quorum having been established, we will at this time move to oral communication. This would be the opportunity for anyone to address the council on a matter under our jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda for a period of time not to exceed 2 minutes. Ms. Wood, do we have anyone online who has their hand up on this? Okay, what we'll do is start with Mr. Ewing, who is present today, and then we will go to the person online. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate being introduced. My name is James Ewing Whitman. Pretty phenomenal supervisors meeting today. They state that, they only allow 30 minutes for public comments, and I had to go some other places, do some research for this meeting, actually, look at some stuff. Public comments were going on for over an hour and a half. It was really quite amazing. Quite a few people with broad areas of knowledge about, let's just say, the Moss Landing power plant. I actually graduated from Stanford in some appropriate degree in 1972. So it was great to see that community. I wish they were here all the time. I'm reminded of an early time in 2024 when I didn't speak till after 2:30 in the morning. And boy, was I right about what I suspected was going to happen. So I suppose there's no way I have that much time. So there's a bunch of issues to talk on. And, I did remind that board that I've stood in front of about 5 years, that our United States was founded as a constitutional republic. And it seems to be implied that it's running as a democracy, which really is mob rule, but in reality, with what their practices are. And unfortunately, most of the practices here, it's democide, which is genocide by government. And I'll be talking in several refined points with at least 3 areas where I can expand for 3 minutes. So it's nice to be here, put on call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We'll take the first person online. Good afternoon. Welcome to the City Council meeting. Person online. Good afternoon. 3, 2, 1. Do we have anyone else online? Do we have anyone else who's with us in council chambers wishing to make comment on oral communication? Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Greg Cole. You know, I know 45 council members like you who are very proud of what they've accomplished. San Luis Obispo City Council added a creek to Santa Rosa Park on Highway 1, your highway. My Cal Poly Senior Project, 1969. Boulder City Council consolidated 14 parcels of land using eminent domain. They created a 140-acre Crossroads Center, Boulder's commercial core. My master's degree, they presented to them in 1974. Aspen City Council made a proud choice. They created a 400-foot-long greenbelt greeting for 20,000 cars a day arriving at Castle Creek Bridge in Aspen, Colorado. They appreciated the idea given to them. As mall planner, City of Aspen City Council proudly adopted the Mall Master Plan. This involved the Mall Commission, the Aspen Mall Gazette, and community meetings at the Aspen Institute. As county planner, Pitkin County supervisors proudly passed a very unique zone, replacing 35-acre checkerboard zoning for the entire county. It was called Resource 160 over the entire county. This allowed the fathering parcel home sites, but most importantly, it preserved the natural pastures and migration paths for the lands that it was overloading. Main Street, Glenwood Springs, badly needed help. I photoed from a cherry picker and sketched Grand Avenue, once again. City Council closed 2 ramps at Colorado River Bridge, then proudly created malls and the new town square where music and dancing now occur under the bridge. They put me on City Council. We together created Centennial Park on Grand Avenue. I became aware then, as one of the city councilmen like you are, that I realized the proud feeling that you as city councilmen feel when wise choices are made for our community. So, together again, having resolutions literally that the point should be created with durable access to the overlook, you have this opportunity to look back proudly on your soft footprints left behind for generations yet to come.
Thank you.
This is not just state's
Mr.
business.
Cole,
This
Mr.
is
Cole,
your
look at me.
business.
Mr. Cole,
Correct
look at me.
action is needed.
Mr. Cole.
Let's do this right. Thank you.
Mr. Cole, no, come back to the mic, come back to the dais. Yes. Look at me. You've been here at least 3 dozen times.
No, but that's okay.
I'm not going to argue with you about this. My point is, you know how much time under oral communication. Please don't abuse that. You just did it. Don't do it again. Thank you. Do we have
Welcome.
anyone else online? Let's take that person online. Good afternoon. Welcome. 3, 2, 1. Anyone else in chambers? Anyone else online? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to item 4, and I'm going to ask the Vice Mayor to handle this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my pleasure to present the check for Hope Services this afternoon. So Hope Services, as many of you know, is a very important nonprofit organization here in Santa Cruz County that provides training and support services for adults with developmental disabilities. And the Hope Services crews have been here helping keep our streets clean and welcoming for over 26 years now, which is really incredible. Each holiday season, we do a Parking for Hope program, and that's in partnership, the city does that in partnership with the Downtown Association. And over a period of 8 days, we donate all the funds that we get from our downtown parking meters to Hope Services for all the incredible work that you do year-round. Today, we have with us Hope Services Program Manager Heather Perez, and if you may step forward, Program Coordinator Jessica Guzman, Job Coach Catherine Pell, and crew members Sarah Reed, Raul Villalvos, I apologize if I mispronounce your name, and Mark Brember. So thank you, and so all of you and all of the rest of you who are here, thank you for being here. I'm gonna come up in just a moment and present to you with a check for our 10th annual Parking for Hope program. It's in the amount of $17,835. And this brings the total amount of money that we've been able to donate to Hope Services to $285,580 over the last 10 years. The funds will be paying for nonprofit downtown litter abatement crew. And again, we are so grateful for the work you do day in and day out to help keep our downtown clean and welcoming. And I will be coming up shortly and giving you the check.
If you're with Hope Services, raise your hand. If you're, yeah, thank you, all of you in the back and so on. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to say thank you very much. We greatly appreciate this, your support and this ongoing partnership. And this contribution will enable our team to continue the work in downtown Santa Cruz and the beautification. So thank you so much.
Thanks to you. Way to go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica. I'm the program coordinator. I wanted to extend my thanks as well. It's a pleasure to continue the partnership with the city and the ambassadors. So thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Sarah Reed. Thank you.
I'm Catherine Pell, and I'm the job coach for the DTLA crew and the leave crew. I've been doing this job now for 2 months. Best job I ever have. Love it.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Presiding officer announcements. A very limited one. This is not necessarily an invitation, it's more of an announcement. As folks here probably know, that February 26, 2013 was a very sad day in our community. It was a day that Butch and Elizabeth, our 2 police officers, were shot and killed in the line of duty. And each year on that date, there's a bit of an acknowledgement of that. And tomorrow at 8 o'clock, there'll be a lowering of flags to half staff at the police department, 8 o'clock in the morning. Statements of disqualification. I remember I have a disqualification on anything on our agenda today. Thank you. Additions and deletions, Mr. City Attorney and Madam City Clerk.
The city clerk will report out on this one.
Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 items that have been continued to the March 11th meeting. That is the item number 14, the public safety impact fee item, as well as item 16, the 313 Swift Street item. And then item 17, the ordinance regarding the fair rate of return to landlords has been continued to a future meeting when it is ready to be brought forward.
Very good. Items 14 and 16 continued to March 11th. Item 17 continued indefinitely until there is appropriate time for action on that.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you so much. Attorney, Mr. City Attorney, report on closed session, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. Mayor Keeley, members of the City Council. There are 3 items discussed by the City Council in closed session commencing at 12:30 in the courtyard conference room. First item was liability claims, the claim of garrison property and casualty insurance. That item is also listed as agenda item 9 for council action in open session this afternoon. Item 2 was conference with labor negotiators involving all bargaining groups. Council received a report from its chief negotiator on that item. Item 3 was a conference with legal counsel concerning existing litigation, the case of GVC St. George versus the City of Santa Cruz, currently pending in the United States District Court in San Jose. There was no reportable action in today's closed session.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, do we have any updates on the meeting calendar?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. We are on the consent agenda. For those of you that might be unfamiliar with it, we will be taking up items 6 through 10 inclusive on one motion. What I will do is begin on my left, work around to my right with city council members to see if they want to pull an item, comment on an item, or ask a question on an item. Once we finish that, I will extend the courtesy to the public to make comment on the consent agenda. If you have an item that you want to, or multiple items, you'll have a total of 3 minutes on everything on the consent agenda item. Let me start with Councilmember Golder. Councilmember Golder, anything on the consent agenda item? Councilmember O'Hara.
Nothing.
Councilmember Newsom.
No.
Councilmember Brunner. Councilmember Triguero.
No, thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor.
No. Thank you.
Well, we are scooting along here today. Any member who's with us wish to comment on an item on the consent agenda? Please come forward, Mr. Ewing. Good to see you again, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
It's good to be seen. James Ewing Whitman. On the consent agenda, number 6, the minutes.
Yes, sir.
I want to make comments on number 19 from the before meeting and number 22. 19 is comprehensive wildfire preparedness.
Hold on. We are on items 6 through 10. We have a very short consent agenda item.
Boom. Number 6 is the minutes.
Oh, I thought you said 16.
Oh,
Excuse
I
me.
made a mistake. I do it all the time. I might have said that.
Okay.
Okay. No worries. So on number 19, the comprehensive wildfire preparedness, and number 22. Oh, geez. I wrote something different that is certainly not the title, whatever number 22 was. I think it had to do with the noise ordinance. I won't read what I wrote because I try as much as possible, present like I'm a teacher in a K-8 single schoolroom. You know, the historians in the room are the clerks, and they have a really important job. You know, I come in. Generally, I can come in on Friday because usually I should produce your information on Thursday night, or I can come in on Monday. And it's almost 9 times out of 10 when I ask whichever clerk is assisting me, how many other people have come in to look at even what's going on. Sometimes I'm the only one, and it's sad because I'm having so much fun, I feel selfish. Now, it's great that I'm not trying to digress. I'm going to just cover a base. You postponed number 16, which is 2 whole binders. Over 1,700 pages. I have no idea what's in there. But as far as the comprehensive fire preparedness, there was a lot of really good dialogue that was shared by some career fire professionals. I don't think I'm any kind of a career fire professional, but I've been starting fires and putting them out since I was a little kid. Pretty good at both. And it's just kind of to keep track of what's going on. So I suppose to stay on point number 2, which I think is the sound ordinance, I'll be talking on that later. Enough for now, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else online, Ms. Wood, with their hand up? There is. We will take the person online with their hand up. Person online, welcome to the council meeting. 3, 2, 1, we are finished with that. Matters back before the body, pleasure of the body. Councilmember Golder. Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second? There's a second by Councilmember Bruner. Is there debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Triguero.
Aye.
Bruner.
Aye.
Newsom.
Aye.
Golder. O'Hara.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Keeley.
Aye. Motion passes and so ordered. Next up is the consent agenda public hearings. These are items 11 through 13. If you wish to comment on those, we will do this all at one time. Let me see if council members would like to pull, comment, or ask a question on the public hearing items. Councilmember Golder. No. Councilmember O'Hara.
I'd like to pull 12, please.
Pull item 12. Item 12 is pulled. Councilmember Newsom. Councilmember Bruner. Councilmember Triguero.
No, thank you.
All right. Anyone with us who wishes to comment or have an item pulled? Please come forward.
I wouldn't comment on number 12. I decided I don't know what it means for it to be pulled.
No, come on. Make a comment. Sure. Hi.
My name is Rachel Sotos, and I would like to address you on behalf of the good fairies of good governance. I'd like to speak with a question, perhaps a protest against the sound ordinance suggestion. And the good fairies of good governance are interested that at this revolutionary time, we are concerned to make America think again. So it's good to be, maybe good to be great. We need to think about that. Very good to be healthy. Definitely, we should strive to think again. And I think that there's a lot of reasons why Santa Cruz should take this opportunity to look inside and redefine itself in terms of its core values. And I don't think sound ordinances, which could curb the ability of teenage kids to have a garage band and express themselves freely, is in any way in any interest of what it means to be able to think again. I think a lot of what's been happening in the public school system has been indoctrination, mind control, and propaganda. And for that reason, there needs to be spaces created where young people can have a relationship to transcendence. These comments may or may not have been influenced by therapeutic hallucinogenics. I'm not recommending it for anyone else. I seem to have a very high tolerance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wish to make comment? Anyone else? Anyone online? All right. We will be taking up items 11 and 13 together because we have continued, actually pulled item 12. Matters back before the body. Pleasure of the body.
I'll move items 11 and 13 on public hearing consent.
And
Motion.
I will second.
Councilmember Triguero. Debate or discussion? Sir.
Since your Zoom is not working for me, anyway, first, let me remind the city is not a for-profit, ever-expanding business. Everything is not its business, and it is a monopoly of various public enterprises, which requires a high degree of transparent and ethically precise accounting. The proclamation that the city charter authorizes the city to basically do whatever in the loosest of interpretations of, quote, make and enforce all ordinances and regulations in respect to municipal affairs, apparently also includes resolving to borrow money without public consent, saying it will be repaid by income from enterprises, without saying exactly who really pays for what. It's my understanding is part of the envisioned parking structure isn't public parking at all, but for exclusive use by private developers subsidized price-controlled tenants, which is truly legally questionable as if that part of the construction for exclusive use qualifies as a municipal affair, justifying a revenue bond. The only way it works for me is if those tenants pay sufficiently for their parking to repay exactly their portion of the construction costs. I ask, will parking fees from this structure alone pay for its construction? Will the private tenants pay their fair share Otherwise, it's a kind of corruption or a kind of coercively debt-funded socialism. If I have this wrong, it's because you are not transparent yet on these facts. Last meeting, that question of legality of the city's authority was put to an unelected bureaucrat accountant, unqualified to answer such a question, even when a highly paid and qualified, normally representing the city's legal interest city attorney, was sitting just to the right who didn't say anything. Even authority is not everything. I think the ethics of this future bond borrowing obligation without public consent, even if only partially for the exclusive benefit of private parties, is debatable depending on the particulars of who pays. Is this just another socialist corridor of corruption where whatever it takes, whatever the developer wants, subsidy gets laundered for the benefit, in this case of a very leftist developer, in whatever amounts it takes to get something or anything built? A real problem with this is it eliminates the 30-day ordinance waiting period, meaning you can issue debt with a resolution without the consent before anyone can challenge it in court, for instance, with an injunction. You sign the papers, the public owes the money, even if it's found out later not to be appropriate. Perhaps it is not so different than the equally misguided socialist gifting of public parking lots, or the socialist gifting of the airspace above public land, or the property tax exemptions, or raiding the supposedly protected public trust fund for socialist housing. But at least tell it like it is. Don't do it this way. We know lots of extraneous expenses are charged now to the Downtown Parking Enterprise Slush Fund. For fun, I asked Grok AI about this topic. What it said was, a city borrowing money without the consent of the people can be considered wrong for several reasons, rooted in principles of accountability, transparency, and democratic governance. It explained in some detail 5 reasons in the categories of lack of representation, lack of transparency, lack of trust, a burden on future generations, a risk of misuse, economic consequences. It also mentioned skipping communication, and justification entirely tends to breed resentment and a perception of illegitimacy.
Thank you, sir.
Take answers instead of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, my name is still James Ewing Whitman. I was somewhat confused, the number 13. So did a little bit of research on that. I'm just going to read it. Minor modifications to previously adopted amendments to Chapter 18.15 of the municipal code requiring additional energy standards for alterations and additions to existing single-family homes. So I did a little bit of research. You know, you're pushing heat exchangers. So let's say a personal space heater. The cheapest one I found was like $210 for a heat exchanger, whereas I'm sure you can get any number of cheap heaters for under $20. Also, the phasing out of gas stoves and electric coil stoves for, I forget the word, I forget the technical term, but those stoves are also much more expensive than a gas unit or the coil electric. And the other one was for dryers, phasing out regular electric coil dryers and phasing out gas dryers. The limited research I did looking for a heat exchanger dryer, they're really expensive as well. So what is this really pushing? I mean, it's pushing this really tightening of people's freedoms. This is just one example of many. So at least I got to say a couple things on this item, because I think it's actually important to look at the fine print, do a little bit of research and go, this technology is challenging. And I'm assuming that with this digital age, that's going to be smart equipment. And that's a whole different story in itself. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matters back before the body. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there further debate or discussion? Okay, we are going to take the 2 items on one motion, then we will take up item 12. What is your question? I'm sorry.
It doesn't seem like
No. Okay.
It doesn't seem like there's too many people here, so maybe it's possible to add one point to what I wanted to say before. I forgot.
No.
Is that okay?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
No, you had your time. If I start doing it with you, I have to do it with everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate your presence here. Clerk will call the roll.
Council members Triguero. Aye. Brunner. Aye. Newsom.
Aye.
Golder.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Keeley.
Aye. Motion passes so ordered. We're on item 12. Ms. O'Hara,
Thank you.
yes, the item to be continued.
Yeah, to be pulled. Thank you, Mayor. I think if you're comfortable, Julia, if you could put the motion up on the screen so folks can take a look. While Julia is putting the motion up on the screen, I wanted to give a little bit of context, and then if I have a second, I can provide some additional context. Obviously, we've had an opportunity to consider this ordinance now on 3 occasions, with 2 occasions actually coming in front of council.
So what we're going to do is if you want to make a motion, make your motion, then we'll debate the
Perfect.
motion.
I'm happy to do that. So my motion language is I move to direct staff to return to City Council within 2 months with an updated noise ordinance that meets the following objectives. Expands the ordinance to all commercial zones throughout the city, uses California Department of Public Health guidelines to limit noise impacting public health, use decibel measurement criteria instead of distance-based rules, ensures the ordinance only regulates noise harmful to public health, provides clear enforcement guidelines to council, and further engage with interested community members on permitting options to continue current public expression activities.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Ms. O'Hara, you may open on your motion.
Yeah, so, and thanks very much for council and the community's patience on this. And I will say that being an analyst in the city manager's office for a number of years has caused me to really dive into what exactly we are limiting or prohibiting by virtue of this ordinance. So I do want to go through a statement because I have been through quite an evolution on this, and I want to make sure that I'm really clear on my argument. So I think today we're attempting to make a decision that balances public health with the vibrancy of our community. I believe the proposed ordinance aims to protect public health, but as written, it risks overreaching and unintentionally silencing beneficial community activities. I believe we can achieve our public health goals without limiting positive public expression. So how did I arrive at this perspective? As I said, my understanding of this issue has evolved through extensive research and expert consultation. I engaged with staff, the city attorney's office, and sought independent expertise from Dr. Jeremy Wagner, a professor and sound engineering specialist from UC Berkeley's Center for New Music and Audio Technologies. His insights, combined with data from the World Health Organization and OSHA, provide me a clearer understanding of the health impacts of noise and help me evaluate the real-world consequences of the proposed ordinance. So here's my key argument. First, I set out to better understand the health impacts of noise. My research shows that amplified sounds in our downtown area often reach over 110 decibels. Most concert-level amps are rated at 110 decibels, and they do pose a serious risk of permanent hearing loss to employees, patrons, and the public. This is objectively the case. That level of noise does potentially harm people's hearings. So with that data, I agree with council members Brunner and Newsom that we must regulate harmful noise to protect public health. Honestly, if we were subjecting our own city employees to this level of noise, we'd be in violation of OSHA, period. So, however, in addition, I have researched what exactly we are prohibiting with a 75-foot rule. And I believe the current rule is way too restrictive, and I'm going to provide data to support that. In fact, Councilmember Triguero's and Mayor Keeley's insights from the first reading were spot on. The current proposal would effectively outlaw even quiet performances. So like acoustic guitars, piano, and singing, which pose no health risks. Sound travel is dictated by a well-understood physics equation. It's called the inverse square equation, I believe. Dr. Wagner from UC Berkeley confirmed that no matter the source of volume, sound only drops 30 decibels over 75 feet. So this this means this ordinance would silence most, if not all, amplified and even acoustic performances, not just the harmful ones. Let me repeat this. The proposed ordinance of the 75-foot rule would very likely silence most, if not all, amplified and even acoustic performances, not just the harmful ones. So I'm not comfortable passing this restrictive of a law, and honestly, I really did make a mistake at the last meeting with my proposed motion of expanding the ordinance. That's why we have 2 readings, is to ensure that we have an opportunity to engage with the community, that we have an opportunity to learn from our conversations with our council colleagues, and have an opportunity to fully understand the implications of the laws that we're passing. So I want to quickly share a chart that I created that was validated by the UC Berkeley professor to ensure that you all have the same data that I was provided. Might be able to just, perfect. So hopefully you guys can see this, and I realize it's somewhat small. What you see above at the top in red are noise levels in decibels that are harmful to human hearing, that can cause permanent or temporary health impacts. What you see below the red lines are noises that are not harmful to the public or to humans. And what you'll see here is that something that is 60 decibels, i.e. normal conversation or office noise, is still audible at 75 feet. What you see as a quiet library or a refrigerator hum is still audible at 75 feet. I went back and forth with the professor and the sound engineer at UC Berkeley, asked many different questions. Is there ways that, you can hear less over that distance? Of course, yes, but you can also hear more. So buildings amplify sound, the ground amplifies sound. So, I'm not comfortable with the fact that acoustic guitar is played at about 85 decibels, a violin at about 85 decibels. Those would be also heard at 75 feet, even in a noisy downtown area. So I want to just provide one additional chart for folks to fully understand what we're talking about here. So that red area on the right are noises that are impactful to public health, whereas, below orange all the way down are noises that are not. But as I mentioned, a singing voice is about 70 decibels. You will hear that at 75 feet away. And, I think that's probably not what we're intending to do with this rule. At least that's not what I'm intending to do. So I would like to move forward with this motion. So to finish up my comments, I believe we can protect public health while maintaining vibrant community expression if we take into consideration the following objectives: use decibel measurements to regulate harmful noise following California Department of Public Health guidelines. Per Dr. Wagner, this can be done directly with inexpensive SPL meters that can be calibrated in the field. You can have a decibel meter right on your phone. It's very simple, and that can be enforced by our police officers. Ensure that ordinance only targets noise levels that threaten public health, not safe community-enhancing performances. Proactively engage with interested community members to maintain vibrant public expression through permits, and request staff to provide clear enforcement guidelines ensuring the ordinance is practical and effective. So in making the motion, I believe we can ensure we have a path forward to meet the objectives set forth by Councilmember Brunner and Newsom, their proposed ordinance, while also ensuring the ordinance is in full alignment with our health and all policies framework and not overreaching to and limiting safe noise levels. I really think this approach protects public health while preserving the cultural and community experiences that define our city. I urge my council colleagues to support this balanced and evidence-based solution, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Further debate or discussion on the item? Madam Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the motion and additional information, Councilmember O'Hara. I do want to thank my colleagues, council members Bruner and Newsom. You put work into this, and it's an issue that we are in the community that we're trying to address through this. I support the intent of the original ordinance of addressing the public health impacts of excessive noise. But after putting more thought into it, reading into it more deeply, talking to Councilmember O'Hara and looking at the data that she provided, I think there are some critical pieces missing in the ordinance as it stands today before us. The idea of using objective methods of measuring noise, that's very appealing to me. And also being uniform across our commercial zones throughout the city. As I mentioned in the last meeting, I think picking certain commercial areas will be lead to unintended consequences. So Councilmember O'Hara addresses these in the motion. I appreciate that we have a couple months to work on it, or staff has a couple months to work on it. I think if we're gonna do this, we really need to be thoughtful and do it right. So this is why I seconded and am supporting this direction.
Councilmember Bruner.
Thank you. Let's see. I think there is a lot of points that I just would like to clarify. I'm not prepared to support this motion. I think I am prepared to support the original motion as it stands. I think it's very important that we support our, artistic and public expression of amplified sound, and that includes music and speech in our, specific commercial areas that have, where we've experienced impacts to public health. And this is absolutely a public health equity objective standard that the original motion supports, and using the distance tool is the most effective and efficient versus a decibel reader. Yes, there are decibel readers in apps and on your phone, but that's not necessarily an upholdable and reliable in terms of for example, a police officer or anyone else using that method. And so the feet distance, much like the California vehicle law, sound law, is very clear, and I think the best path forward would be to not support this motion and to accept as the original motion. And if there's something in the future to come forward, then so be that. However, I'm not prepared to support this. I think the decibel requirements and the enforcement is unrealistic, and we need to support our artistic expression in our commercial areas with least impact to other buskers, for example, and least impact to our therapists and mental health services and call centers and medical offices that are, people that are impacted by unreasonably loud noises. So the original motion simply is a boundary that is very simple to understand in shared public space that I think would be an equitable and fair way.
Thank you. Further debate or discussion? Councilmember Trio.
Thank you, Mayor. Last time I spoke on the importance of political and artistic expression in our public spaces. And I remain with those comments that I made in last session about the original proposed ordinance. And it applies to this one as well. I appreciate the intention to bridge that. What we have here is an equation of distance, decibel, and duration. So there's one point in Councilmember O'Hara's comments that I want to make sure to offer additional insight. I was an OSHA 30 trained employee, and those limits for the average, the limits for the permissible exposure is about an average over an 8-hour workday. And we're not having an exposure issue with that kind of duration here. I secondly want to comment on the concern of selective enforcement. Either and both ordinances, which I cannot support, reside within that selective enforcement. And because we are trying to insert in decibel rather than distance, I appreciate that it's trying to use some evidence-based, some scientific level. But the problem is that in all of these various commercial spaces, we will have unique environmental context, which will affect that decibel reading. And it does not allow for us to have an actual uniformity because the environment is changeable based on the location. So those are the two, main points that I want to make here. And I want to say additionally, I'm seeing from my fellow council members a clear intent, right, to both honor and also support, right, our community. But at the end of the day, this whole ordinance came about as a result of complaint-driven. And so I find myself unable to support either because it perpetuates within our culture complaints about something that are very easily, my son and I both have sonar sensitivities and we use earplugs. If we're gonna walk into the downtown, if we walk into the arena to go see our Warriors play, we put in our earplugs every time so we can enjoy the event and protect ourselves no matter what duration we choose to be exposed. So I'll close my comments with that. Thank you.
Further debate or discussion, Councilmember Golder.
I appreciate your comments, Councilmember Triguero, but I wasn't going to say anything, but now I'm compelled to do so, in that, so where I see this being an issue and where I'm inclined to support either of them is if you're working in the downtown businesses. For example, my daughter was working at Pacific Wave. Her job was to stand at the door for 8 hours. And someone's out there preaching and out with a megaphone. She can't leave. She can't put in headphones. She has to work. She has to stand there and man the sidewalk sale, man the door, whatever it is. And so I do see the impacts to public health, and whether it's measured through distance or through decibels, I think there's something that needs to be done here. And so my inclination is to support this one. If it doesn't pass, I'll support the other one, but I'm gonna add a friendly amendment that maybe we come back and revisit with some data in 6 months and just when we get to that point. So I just wanted to say, I'll support either because I do see the impacts to public health and that not everyone has the choice to wear earplugs downtown.
Thank you. Further debate or discussion, Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make my comments very brief. I will add to that some of the feedback that I have received from businesses in downtown, especially those who do telework that can't just put in earplugs, have had some issues where it's interrupted their operations and stuff that they're doing. With that said, I think there's been laid out at least an argument to maybe increase the distance-based rules that are in the ordinance, maybe increase from 75 to a higher spot, but I have not seen any evidence to expand the ordinance to all commercial zones. There's even been one yes, sorry. There's been one reference to downtown and the issues that occur in downtown, but there haven't been other issues from other areas. And I know at the last meeting you all were wanting to expand the ordinance as well, and I think that might be part of the intent for this as well. So I will not be supporting this as it is.
Further debate or discussion. The Vice Mayor is recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to comment on the expansion to commercial zones in all areas of the city. I'm concerned that we are creating a situation there where there'll be unintended consequences and we will be pushing it to other commercial zones. I think being selective about only specific districts or areas in the city, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I will be, as I said, I seconded this motion. I will be supporting this motion. If it doesn't pass, I will be reluctant to support the ordinance as it is right now in our agenda, without the opportunity of coming back and visiting, expanding to other commercial zones.
Thank you. Further debate or discussion, council member?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I really want to honor Councilmember Triguero's comments. You know, I wholeheartedly agree with where your heart is on this, and you know, it's really a struggle, and I think we'll hear from public comment too in terms of the impacts that the public might be experiencing and considering this ordinance. Just want to provide clarity that this motion does not recommend a specific ordinance. It just recommends evaluating and bringing back a new ordinance for us to consider. So anybody voting for this ordinance is nowhere near obligated to vote for what comes in before the body in 2 months.
Further debate or discussion, seeing hearing none, will go out to the public. This is the opportunity for the public to address the motion on the floor.
Yeah, my name is still James Ewing Whitman. My technology is pretty crazy. I recorded myself this morning, and for whatever reason, the middle meat of that recording got slowed down by a factor of 4. I sounded like a demonic whale. I was able to hey, I posted it, it's crazy. So, I mean, I was really thinking about trying to deliver a corporate feces sandwich, but this to me it seems impossible. And I'm gonna try to be polite, but I can just do the best I can. This is just begging the questions of so many other totalitarian controls. You know, even last night, I had the opportunity to do laundry, my favorite laundry place, and go into 2 of my most favorite bars. In both of them, the level of the sound had been greatly reduced. One of them, I can talk to one of the owners a lot easier than the other and support what's going on. She got a ticket a couple weeks ago. First set of officers warned her. 10 minutes later, she got a ticket. I don't know what that is going to be. So, you know, when I first heard of this, I kind of have a sense of humor. I think I'm somewhat creative. And I was thinking kind of the 12 days of Christmas, except thinking of the 12 different ways you could sue the city of Santa Cruz for at least $200 million on each fine, which isn't funny and is funny. So what are really the remedies when I'm listening to all this dialogue? You know, on the February 11th meeting, there's a quote at 1 hour, 40 minutes by Susie O'Hare. Noise is a serious health hazard. Now, I absolutely agree with that. You know, I had a young kid, and I realized early on that unless he had ear protection and I had stuff that would go around his neck, in, out, in, out, in, out, that when I was at work, I wore because I liked the hearing that I still have. And that made the difference between him being able to participate in the events with me or him just being horrific. So rather than sue the city for $200 million, if there's 70,000 people, you could, at $7 each, that's only $490,000. So I think at some point we need to realize what's going on and what are we really going to be worried about. I've got 57 seconds. So there's so many issues that are really strong concerns that are going to be much more difficult to solve than everybody paying attention and maybe having some ear protection, because there's loud noises all over the place, and I could be more direct delivering a corporate feces sandwich if I were to read the notes that I took. But let's say some things that brought me into this room to begin with, and this: why are we allowing weaponized military civilian frequency weapons in civilian locations? And that issue has only exploded since then. If I felt the kill grids were 85% done by October of 2019, I could certainly state why they're 185% done. We're not talking about the chemtrails. We're not talking about the vaccine harm. We're not talking about the white supremacist organization that's painted in the street, Black Lives Matter. We're not talking about the eugenics, genocide, infertility organization, Planned Parenthood, which is right across the street. So this is begging a lot of things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Curtis Relafort. I have been playing loud music for 20 years. my ears are intact all over the United States. Thousands of people embrace the music I bring. It's about peace, love, kindness, how to treat another human being. It's so important right now that somebody's out there with the loudest they can be, talking about love, peace, compassion for everybody, empathy. It's time that we move on love as loud as we can. I go to areas where people have came from Vietnam on the bomb squad for 3 years and come back and their ears are intact to save America. What difference can I make in America? These people in Santa Cruz straighten me up off the sidewalk, sleeping with just a blanket. They straightened me up and cleaned me up, took me to a drug center. 39 years clean and sober, they helped me. They helped me to find myself. They helped me to love myself until they loved me until I started loving myself. Santa Cruz is a magnificent place, and the majority of Santa Cruz have been supporting me and pushing me forward with the kind of music I play, with the sound that I bring them, and the kindness, the compassion, the giving to all of the people that's on the streets, in the tents. That's the most important thing to be focused on. The killings, the dying on the streets, the drugs. That's what we should be focused on, y'all. The noise is bringing the people to civil human beings. All this other stuff that you're writing down, I don't know nothing about that. I respect you for going through with all of that. I done had handicaps, mentally ill, to come up to me and talk to me. And I tell them to go to the program, go to AA, and they have been going. I done helped thousands and thousands of people off drugs. This ain't no lie. If you want me to get my research and write it down and bring it here, how do I do that? How do I sign up for your next meeting to present myself with what I've been doing? I'm passionate. I'm not mad. I'm happy as the son of a bitch up in here of what I have achieved in 20 years, man. 20 years. All of these people in Santa Cruz embracing me like a brother. And I'm a black man in a white town. And these people telling me they love me. And they ain't just telling me that, they looking at me from the heart. Have a heart. Turn on your heart light.
Thank you, Curtis. Greg, good afternoon. Welcome to the council meeting.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Greg Bankson. Love my brother Curtis. I've worked with him. Boy, he's a hard worker. But bottom line is we do need moderation in all things. We need to know our neighbors and listen to our neighbors, and that means broad spectrum. And I have friends that are on the autism spectrum that freak out about noises. But we have to value one another's voices, but value one another's ears. We just have something sensible and believe. I don't say this often, but moderation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone online? Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to note for the record here that we are having some trouble with our online communication. Typically what we do is when someone's online, they have the ability to raise an electronic hand, and then the clerk advises me of that. When she does, we alternate back and forth between someone online and someone in person. We are very sorry that for whatever reason, we are having technical difficulties receiving any communication online today, and for that, we apologize. Let me see if there's anyone else with us in chambers who wishes to comment on this item. Seeing and hearing none, the matter is back before the body. There is a motion and a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Triguero?
No.
Bruner?
No.
Newsom?
No.
Golder?
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Keeley.
No. Motion passes and so ordered. Is there further action on this item?
Mayor,
Excuse me?
that motion did not pass.
Yes, I meant to say that it didn't pass. I'm probably so used to saying that the matter's passed and so ordered. Please accept my apologies all around the dais. The motion fails. Is there another motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the item number 12 with the following amendment to item number 12, that the distance be changed from 75 feet to 125 feet.
Is that the only amendment?
Yes.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Motion and a second under discussion. Mr. Newsom, you may open on your motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank my colleagues for the comments. I think Councilmember O'Hara pointed out that I think the distance on the ordinance need to be expanded and need to be wider. The point of this ordinance is not to reduce artistic expression or free speech or anything. If anything, it's to increase. And that's, I think, increasing the distance is the right way to go, and that's the motion.
Is there further debate or discussion? Councilmember Golder on the motion.
May I offer a friendly amendment to expand to all commercial zones and to have staff come back in 6 months, just letting us know how it's going with some data?
There's a friendly amendment. Is that considered friendly by the maker of the motion?
No.
Okay. Do you wish to make that as a motion? Do you wish to make it as a
I'm
motion?
thinking. No.
Okay. Is there further motions, either to amend or substitute motions? Further debate or discussion on the item? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to confirm with the city attorney with the amendment that this is actually an introduction and this will come back for another second reading.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Triguero.
No.
Councilmember Brunner.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsom.
Aye.
Councilmember Golder.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Hara.
No.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
No.
Mayor Keeley.
Yes, motion passes and so ordered. This will return on a future agenda because an amendment was made to the motion as presented. Item 14 has been continued. Item 15, child care impact fee update. Good afternoon, welcome. Ms. Pearson, you will present on this item?
Yes, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I'm Vivian Pearson, Principal Management Analyst with the Planning and Community Development Department. Today, I'll be presenting the proposed amendments to the Child Care Impact Fee exemptions as directed by Council at the December 10th, 2024 meeting. I apologize, I think the slides didn't transfer correctly, but the texts are still correct.
Okay.
In June 2021, the City Council adopted the Child Care Impact Fee to address the increased child care needs associated with new development. The ordinance included various exemptions for eligible projects. Presented here is the current child care impact fee structure. Here are the three proposed amendments for consideration. The first amendment proposes adding an exemption for Santa Cruz County School District Employee Housing Projects. Currently, there is not an exemption. The second amendment is to modify a current exemption for ADUs. Currently, all ADUs and junior ADUs are exempt. This amendment would limit the exemption to those with less than 750 square feet. The third amendment is to modify the affordable housing project exemption. Currently, all 100% affordable housing projects are exempt. The proposed amendment would only fully exempt projects when childcare facilities are incorporated in the proposed projects. For affordable housing projects without childcare facilities, these projects would be eligible for a 50% reduction in fees. That 50% reduction acknowledges the importance of affordable housing projects while also recognizing that affordable housing units also contribute towards demand for childcare facilities. This concludes my presentation for the childcare impact fee updates. I welcome the City Council and Mayor for any questions.
Questions by members at this point? Seeing here none. Thank you very much for the presentation. Let me see if there are folks who are with us who wish to make comment on this item. This will be your opportunity to do so.
Zoom was down for me this morning. You missed a wonderful oral communications speech I wrote. And of course, I didn't have time to print out anything on this item, so I have to wing it for once. But you got my letter that went to this item, and my feeling is just that, as with many things that go on here, you hold this permit as like mafioso, you want a permit, and you give us money, and there's no real connect the dots between, what the money's for and who pays or why. And just simply building an apartment building, there's no connection between that and especially any impact on your finances whatsoever as regards childcare. So I regard it as extortion, as we've seen in other ways, in other places, like when developers come here for a final approval of something, and then at the last second you're going in, how about you pay for this, this, and this? And they go, okay, yeah, I want a permit, So I don't have a real good feeling about it. I think childcare is an important thing, but well, nowadays, I don't know anybody that should really trust the government with any part of childcare or even education. But you don't really say in this, again, it's not really clear, well, what kind of childcare we're talking about, or, it's just childcare, but the important part is you're just missing a real connect the dots justification. To me, it is extortion. I'm sure there are some other reasons, but I didn't take any notes. So that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to comment on the item? Matters back before the body. Pleasure of the body. Councilmember Golder. There's a motion by Councilmember Golder.
I'll second.
Second by the Vice Mayor. Councilmember Golder, you may open on your motion. No comment. Further debate or discussion, I will say this, that actually, could you put up your amendments again? Thank you. Thank you. What is the rationale for exempting a school district employee housing?
Thank you, Mayor, for the question. This was revisited from the December 10th, 2024 City Council discussion that currently school district projects are currently not exempted, and they also contribute, the school district housing is not currently listed as an exemption, and so we wanted to be able to include that as an exemption.
That's a process answer, and I appreciate it. What is the policy rationale for this?
Thanks for that question, Mayor. Lee Butler, Director of Planning and Community Development. The main thought process behind that was that schools themselves provide more childcare than probably any other, than all other childcare facilities combined, just by virtue of their taking care of our youth during much of the school day. So that was the rationale behind the school district exemption here.
Well, I'll bet you.
May I, if I may,
You certainly may.
with the school district project, my thought around the exemption is Santa Cruz City Schools provides daycare, education for about 7,000 kids in our community. from the ages of, depending on if they have special needs, they'll start as early as 2. If they don't have special needs, next year they're starting at the age of 3, and we'll keep them from 8:20 till 6 p.m. We also have summer care. So we also house on our campuses several, like Bridges to Kinder up at Westlake, and other school campuses house outside preschools. So they're by far the largest childcare provider in the county, and North County, I would say. And so that was the reason, was to remove a little bit of public cost to that project, because they're already providing a lot of public good in that arena.
Thank you. I understand it. I do understand it, and I think that every one of those points is a legitimate point. Not sure I agree that that's a reason for an exemption for housing for employees who may or may not have children with them there. They have a need. Presumably the reason you're doing employee housing is because they don't make enough. Rather than build it into their salary, it's being built into a housing project. I understand that kind of thing. I think it's a legitimate policy question about which way you want to go on that. I do have a question also about the full fee exemption for projects with childcare. I get that one. What about the next one, the 50% fee reduction without childcare? Why would that, what is the policy rationale for that? Because it would seem to me that in affordable housing, you're likely to have equal to or greater than what you might oftentimes find in other housing in terms of needs for childcare. So I'm not sure what the distinction, why we're drawing a distinction in this.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, for that question. So currently, all 100% affordable housing projects are exempt, and we wanted to be able to balance and recognize the needs that there are some projects that the increase in affordable housing projects also increases the demands for childcare facilities. City Council and the Council and the Mayor may consider different percentages, as we included in the staff report various percentages of exemptions. Staff is proposing a 50% reduction in fees so that it also doesn't inhibit an increased cost for affordable housing development.
Thank you. I will say this in response to a comment that was made. My understanding, Mr. City Attorney, is that in order to impose any of these fees, a nexus study is required. And it is that nexus study which goes through a rather rigorous analysis of what problem is there. Are there sufficient resources to meet those? If there are not, there is a linkage, a direct linkage, a provable, factual direct linkage between the inadequacy of current child care resources and the degree to which additional housing aggravates that issue. And that in order to impose a fee, the nexus study must prove that there is a nexus between these and that the fee would tend to mitigate that problem.
That is correct. However, there are, I think where I would distinguish that is does the fee recover the full cost of an impact created by the development? And in order to establish a valid fee, you would have to be able to demonstrate that it doesn't exceed the cost of facilities needed to accommodate the demands created by that development. The opposite is not necessarily true. The fee does not have to recover 100% of the costs. So long as the nexus study is accurate and that projects that bear the full freight aren't subsidizing the impacts for other projects, then that would be a valid basis for reducing fees in certain instances. It just means the city doesn't recover 100% cost of mitigating the impact.
Thank you. Further debate or discussion from the body? Clerk will call the roll.
Thank you. Councilmember Triguero?
Aye.
Bruner?
Aye.
Newsom?
Aye.
Golder? Aye. O'Hara?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Keeley?
Aye. Motion passes and so ordered. We're on item 18, as 17 was continued to the March 13th agenda. Item 18 is a resolution to accept and appropriate the award from the State Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Program for the Downtown Library and Affordable Housing Project in District 4. Ms. Lipscomb, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. We're excited to be here today. It's definitely a milestone event. We're getting very close to being in a position to break ground on the Downtown Library and Affordable Housing Project. We secured the last tax credits we needed in December, and now this is the final step to have council officially accept the award and authorize the city manager to enter into the agreements, which would allow us to finalize our financing documents with our project partners and move forward on the project later this spring. We do have several representatives. We have our online who are calling in on the item. We do have available our developer representatives from For the Future Housing and Eden. And then with us today also, if you do have any questions, Sarah Beck from Friends of the Santa Cruz Library is here as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brian Borguno, who is the project manager for the project, and he's going to give just a brief overview of the project, the item before you today, and where we are.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I've got a few new faces, so I put together a brief presentation. Some of the material will probably be a refresher for some of you, but new to the rest of you. And today we're here to talk about specifically the action you're taking on the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Award that we received in August of 2023, because now we're at the stage of contract execution, so we can use the funds for projects that are city projects, but as well as the funding, the primary funding source that's going directly to the development team for the affordable housing component. There we go. So just to reorientate everybody with the project team, we're the lead agency is the City of Santa Cruz, but we partnered with two affordable housing developer teams, Eden Housing and For the Future Housing, and we're also working with two different architect teams. The 10 Over Studios team is the responsible entity for the architecture and design work that's going into the overall core and shell and the affordable housing for all components with the project. And then Jason Architecture is retained by the city to do the full TI and build out of the library component of the project. So they've been working hand in hand and congruently throughout this process. So the agenda today is just to go through a highlight of some of the recent progress that we've been making as we're getting ready to mobilize, as well as go over some of the ins and outs of the ASIC award, and then just touch base on today's action and the next steps that we have coming up. So again, we're in our final stages of building permit and plan check review for phase 1 of the core and shell. The team has submitted the final package to the building department as of just this last week and a half or so. And we expect that to get through its final approval process and be permit ready in the next few weeks. In part, we're pushing for it to be done by the end of this month in order to apply for some additional contingency funding the Affordable Housing Development Team wants to apply for. And so this is really the final step in saying we will have a building permit ready and in hand when we get ready to close and start construction in the summer. We've also been continuing to work with the relocation of the Total Fitness business. They've set a target date of around March 15th to move into their new location. And so things have been going smooth with working with the tenant and relocating them out of the current space to ready the property in its final stages for construction. As Bonnie mentioned, we received our tax credit allocation award at the end of the year. That was the final piece of the affordable housing puzzle that was needed in order to have the full funding stack necessary to move forward. It also mandates a construction start date. So once we receive that award, that started a clock of about a 6-month period in which we want to finalize all these agreements that we need for funding sources and begin construction because it'll be required to do so. And so that's the next things that we're doing. With the action today, along with the earlier action on consent, readying for parking revenue bonds, and we have some final bonding to do with the Measure S funding that we've been in coordination with the county and the library JPA. So with that being said, the ASIC award overview, what is it? Well, this fund is a specific fund from the California Strategic Growth Council that flows through the Housing and Community Development Agency for projects that have housing, but also can bring to the table sustainable elements related to infrastructure like bike, pedestrian improvements. And so we, as a city, are going to receive specific grant funding for Bay Street improvements that will help, connect disconnected sidewalk areas, improve bike lanes, improve curb treatments, make them safer, new painting, things like that, lighting on the Riverwalk. But it also had some components of some of the programs that the Economic Development and Housing team are responsible for when it comes to anti-displacement programs and workforce development. And as a secondary partner to the Affordable Housing team, the Metro is going to receive funding to provide new electric buses and enhance some of the bus stops. All of this is happening within a certain project radius, and so we were able to expand the impact of these grant awards to beyond just the project site. And so today, the action is to approve a resolution that will authorize us to move forward with the grant agreements, and then, of course, the next steps are to continue to ready the financial packages that we haven't finalized yet, begin mobilizing for construction of phase 1. We're congruently in phase 2 construction documents that are also on a separate building permit track, and that will come subsequent to this final approval of the building permit for phase 1. We'll have to prepare an RFP for that city-driven project for the build-out of the library and finalize all of our funding sources for that second phase, as well as making sure that we have a tightened budget based on those construction documentation. And with that, thank you for the brief opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Other questions, comments by members? We're going to start with Councilmember Golder. We'll go to the Madam Vice President.
I just want to thank everybody involved in
Mayor.
this and thank the staff on behalf of the council and Cynthia Matthews. I'm sure if she was here, I'd be thanking, and everybody that had been working on this for years and decades. And I know it's been an uphill battle, and it's so exciting to see it coming to this groundbreaking point. And I know it's been a heavy lift for your team, so I'm very, very pleased to see us get to this point. Thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor.
I'll take the other title.
Yeah,
Just
no.
kidding. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I wanted to express the same sentiments that, having served and watched this project over the last 4 years as a council member and then over a decade as a community member, and seeing the big milestones to come to this point of this very large milestone, and then seeing May 2025 just a couple months away where we're headed is just, it's very, very exciting. Just acknowledge all the work that Bonnie and your team and yourself that have done to get us here, and all the past council members and committee members who worked really, really hard to navigate the various community conversations to get us to this point. So I am super excited, and I don't know, are we gonna have a groundbreaking? I wanna be at the groundbreaking. Okay.
Thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to join in with Councilmember Golder and Councilmember Kalantari Johnson, just sing the praises of your department, Director Lipscomb, and all the work that you've done to bring us to this point, and especially on your work to get this grant for $33 million. This is excellent, and can't wait for the groundbreaking. And you did point out, and something that I was also excited about this that I found out is this grant also comes with about $150,000 in anti-displacement funding that will go to our programs that help prevent homelessness or homelessness prevention programs. And that's really wonderful news. Those programs are much needed and do a lot of great work in our community, especially in low-income neighborhoods in our community. So really excited about this and just really happy about it. Can't wait till May or June to be at the groundbreaking.
Other questions, comments? Councilmember O'Hara.
Also want to share my appreciation. We've been in Santa Cruz since 2006, and I don't think there's been a time, at least in the time that I've been in Santa Cruz, where we've seen this much revitalization in our downtown. I think the library stands as really the pinnacle of that, and in the level of effort that the entire community and leaders went into putting this project together through many, many different iterations. When you see the picture of it on the screen, it really takes your breath away in terms of how our downtown is going to feel different, how the services that are going to be provided to our families, to our entire community are going to be more accessible, more innovative. It's incredibly exciting. And one thing that I will say, with the library kind of standing at the nucleus of that is there's so much else going on, you know, and I think our community really does need to focus on not just the housing and the density and the floor story, but what does this mean in terms of our engagement with our downtown commercial, retail, hospitality district? I see over the next decade with the library at the center and the housing that we're putting in for our downtown to really be a different experience. And so much to the recognition to Ms. Lipscomb, her entire department, the city, and our colleagues here. You know, I'm coming in at the tail end of this as a council member, but had the good fortune of witnessing this as a staff member for many years as well. So again, appreciate it so much, and I would love to continue a conversation about how we talk about the downtown from a broader perspective, what it's going to look and feel like, say, in 10 years, because I think that'll be helpful conversation.
Further questions, comments? Out to the public. Anyone wish to comment on this item? This would be the opportunity to do so. Mr. Phillip, good afternoon.
This isn't, I don't really have precise numbers here. At the point of what I'm saying might be hard to tell, but it's really about cost and versus benefit. I mean, I kind of see a lot of these socialist housing projects as having like no limit to how much money you're willing to throw at it, like whatever it takes, you know. And I think there should be more of an attempt to actually quantify exactly how much subsidy per unit you're really providing, and is that a good deal for taxpayers? So then I'll read stuff here, which I may not have the numbers exactly right, but I wanted to offer up a reality check on the cost of subsidy for the library affordable housing. These grants you mentioned in the summary add up to $43 million. Difficult to estimate the subsidy of the public airspace value, meaning the developer doesn't have to buy land to obtain exclusive use. I have to think that's worth some millions and deserves some figure in the millions of dollars. A portion of Lot 4 being such a valuable piece of real estate. While it's difficult to estimate the lost property tax revenue over 50 years, let's say a third of that $20 million parking structure is $6-something million and tax at 2% a year for 50 years. You know, that's $3,500,000. And then there's the borrowed money also for their share, affordable share of the parking structure, which we don't know, as we talked about before, who exactly is paying for that. And of course, I can't understand the vague references to lease agreements or promises to apply for future grants. But otherwise, it still seems like $55 million total subsidies somehow or other. If you divide that by 124 units and 600 months of a 50-year run, you're subsidizing $740 a month for every single unit. And so is that a good deal? Or is it paying up for whatever the developer wants? Of course, what's not known is the actual, you know, you just count units, but what's a unit really worth? I mean, there's nice ones, lousy ones, cheap ones. You just count units. We don't know what we're getting here. At least I don't. What is not known is the actual rental value of those units. So it's very difficult to say if it's a good deal or not. Limiting rent to 60% of area median income is not nothing, but it is arbitrary relative to the value of the rental in the normal free market sense. And let's see. So it's not really transparent what the subsidy amounts are at all. And I'm wondering who's the tough negotiator here that can show these kinds of numbers, like this is how much subsidy and this is for what, and it would be valued this in the free market. And so, you know, we're not overpaying for, you know, what we're getting. I would mention again, socialism does not create wealth, okay? And it just takes from others, and perhaps with a hefty middleman fee, and it only functions until the pot of other people's money dries up. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Beck, representing Friends of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries. I'm speaking in support of the resolution, to accept and appropriate the award from the State Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Program. Sorry, I had to read that. for the Downtown Library and Affordable Housing Project. Every day, we're getting closer to realizing the promise of a new downtown public library. Enthusiasm is growing tangible for this incredible moment when we have a hub of our very thriving 10-branch public library system. There was never a more auspicious moment to build community, a gathering space at the intersection of education, culture, and human connections. The Friends applaud the city's and the partners' work on this project. And this is a most democratic of institutions, again, at a very important moment. The Friends are actively working in support of this project as volunteers, advocates, and fundraisers. We will be going public soon with all kinds of details on what we've been working on, but just know that we are very committed to this project, very enthusiastic to support, and want to thank all of you for continuing to move this process forward. Thank you.
Well, many thanks to you and the Friends of the Library for all the good work you do. I am advised by the city clerk that our wonderful folks at Information Technology believe they have fixed the problem here. So, Madam Clerk, do we have someone online on this item?
We do.
We will take that person at this time. Good afternoon, person online. Welcome to the council meeting.
Yeah, good afternoon. Jim Rendler for the Future Housing. Just wanted to, can you guys hear me? Hopefully that's coming through. Just want to say how much we appreciate the consideration of the resolution, and I wanted to echo a lot of the comments. This is, such an exciting time. These funds are very competitive, and I want to acknowledge, staff did an absolutely phenomenal job in helping to secure these funds and other funds, and it really has been a great team effort to get to this point. It's pretty exciting. We're definitely at the closing stages here and looking forward to breaking ground here in the next couple months. And so once again, on behalf of For the Future Housing and Eden Housing, we just wanted to thank you and for the consideration of adopting the resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Rendler, thank you and your team for all of the very fine work you do in the affordable housing space in our community and elsewhere. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have another person online? We'll take that person at this time. Person online, good afternoon. Welcome to the City Council meeting.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Casey Byer, former resident of Santa Cruz County, former CEO of the Santa Cruz County Chamber, who worked behind the scenes since 2013 on this project. I want to, first of all, congratulate Bonnie Lipskin and her staff for an outstanding work to work overall on this project for over 10 years, putting together a consultant team that is now ready to move forward. It should have taken 10 years to get to this point, but I'm not going to rehash the old wounds of the work that has been done over the years. I want to emphasize that this city council has a great opportunity to move forward with a downtown library, affordable housing, and a child center in the mix, which will be instrumental in the future of our downtown. And I know that there is a former city council member, a former mayor who is sitting at home probably listening to this, and I would hope in the city's vision of the future that they would think about that building and that library and look at maybe perhaps dedicating one parcel or one segment of that facility on her behalf. She's a wonderful person who's done behind the scenes work, front scenes work, and is deserving of some type of honor. So thank you for your service to the community, and please support this project.
Casey Byer, thank you for all the good work you did at the Chamber and for the Chamber's good work in our community to keep the beating heart of our economic body moving along. Thank you for your comments on that. Do we have anyone else online? Anyone else with comment on the item? Matt is back before the body.
I'll make a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a second by Councilmember O'Hara. Is there debate or discussion on the item? Seeing and hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
No,
Madam.
I was just, no.
Okay, I thought Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Thank you. Councilmember Triguero.
Aye.
Brunner.
Aye.
Newsom.
Aye.
Golder.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Keeley.
Aye. Motion carries and so ordered. Thank you all for the very good work on that. Mr. City Attorney, further business come before us.
We have none.
Madam City Clerk, further business come before us.
None.
The Vice Mayor moves to adjourn, a tear in her eye, as I can tell from here.
Former Vice
Oh, I'm
Mayor.
sorry,
The former.
the former Vice Mayor. A tear in her eye, and a catch in her throat, because this is so deeply concerning that we would adjourn at this tender hour. I do believe that Councilmember Triguero might have 2 tears in her eyes that we would be adjourning at this hour. The motion is not debatable. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A motion carries and so ordered. We stand adjourned.
She's always got like payroll after.